Hello, and welcome to another segment of Tell It Like It Is. I'm your host, Morrisman, and my co-host is.
Joseph Spencer.
And today we're going to do a series of topics. It's not just going to be one. Because we do a lot of public speaking to young folks. And it's very important that we try to pass our knowledge on to young folks. So this particular episode or segment is going to be consideration, being respectful, being considerate, and being consistent. Because recently I've been noticing a trend. Like 20 years ago, when you told somebody you're going to do something for them, your word was your bond, and you did it. Yeah. If you didn't do it, you gave them an ample amount of time to get someone to help them out, as opposed to the day after the fact, oh, I forgot. And I'm starting to notice a lot of that because I try my best to help whoever out there that needs my help, especially my family and my friends. And I send them things to help them out, and then I don't get any response. I have to contact them, and then they tell me, oh, I got it, thank you. And I'm like, that ain't acceptable. When you get something, you should acknowledge it immediately. No one should have to do a follow-up to help you. So today I thought that would be a good topic to talk on as far as what happened to people that kept their word. Now it's this excuse that I forgot, I got busy nonsense, but before I kind of go into my spiel, because I got a lot to say today, I'm going to turn over to Joe and get some insight on what he thinks about these topics and what do you think on it?
When I was younger and say a friend or a family member found out or heard that you needed a couple of dollars or something, and they sent you that couple of dollars through the mail, it was apropos for you to send them a thank you card. Thank you. Thanks for thinking about me. Blah, blah. Do the same for you. Best, whatever. And I don't understand. We have the internet now. We have email,
taxes,
and all that.
And there's no excuse as far as it takes less than a few seconds to shoot a text out and say, I got it, thank you. As opposed to whatever happened, or I got so tied up, or I got busy.
Yeah.
Because, again, we do a lot for young folks as far as public speaking, because you don't know who's watching you and who's observing you as far as what you do. And it's always good to just try to do things before people even ask you, because throughout my life I've been very, fortunate, because I got older brothers, and family members that kind of reared me and told me this is what you need to do and this is what's expected of you, and try to be ahead of it as opposed to having somebody bring it to your attention. Because here's some other just little observations. I used to live in a complex, and I was like, there was an older guy, then there was me, then there were two younger guys. And when it snowed, the maintenance guys were on top of it, but they didn't show up till maybe 7, 8 o'clock that morning. We would get out, me and the older guy, and shovel the snow to make sure that the women that lived in the complex, they came out to a dry pavement and not slipping and falling. These two young guys in their 20s and 30s never did that. And it's just so unfortunate that it doesn't dawn on some people to say, this is what I need to do without anybody asking.
Yeah, well, there are workers that you have to stand over them to get them to do their job. I'm a worker, and I had a friend that tell me one day that you say please and thank you to your workers. You have to, you MF this, you MF that, and I took his word on it and tried it, and it worked.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have to do that.
You shouldn't have to do that.
They should be trained, or should I say reared, to say, hey, yes, sir, no, ma'am, and just do these things. Because throughout my life, wherever I worked, because here's some brief stories about me, and this is a tribute to my mom and my family. One of the first jobs I had got was working at a supermarket. And the unemployment place called me and said, they're hiring. Go down there with a white shirt, black pants, and slack, and a tie, which they didn't have to tell me that I knew. Mm-hmm. So I went down there. There were about 50 people, Joe, that were in the lunchroom waiting to be interviewed. I said, this is not going to be a problem to get this job, because 90% of these people are in tank tops, they're in shorts, they're in T-shirts.
Flip-flops.
Yeah, flip-flops. And out of that 50 group, 3 of us got the job, and I stayed to like 14 years and became assistant manager in one of the largest food chains in the world. So that was a big accomplishment. And some of my appraisals said things like this: hard worker, team player. When I went into the corporate world for X amount of years, I was an analyst, and two of my appraisals said this, Joe, and it was really flattering, but it's like, my mama did a good job because that's my motto. And one of them was, my boss said in the appraisal, I wish I had two of him. And another one said, I wish I could clone him and take him back to our other branch. So no one has never really had to tell me to do things that I knew that I had to do.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
did them. And people observe and see this. So it's very important to just do what you think you need to do. And people notice that, and you move up faster when people don't have to tell you or watch you,
Yeah.
you know?
People working today, I don't care if you got a job that requires a master's, they've learned to do as less as possible for their pay.
Yeah.
You
And I
know,
understand that because, it's like I'm not trying to break my back, but at least do the
Yeah.
minimum. I mean, I don't advocate doing the minimum. I try to do the maximum.
Well,
When
see-
everybody's trying to do 100% Joe all my life, I try to do 130.
since I've gotten to know you, and taking nothing away from your parents, I think that's just part of your old makeup.
No, it's mom and dad.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
mom and dad instilled, and then my brothers and sisters. I mean, I think that some things are genetically, but because I posed this scenario to you before. If I was, because my mom and dad were married before they had me. Now, this was the scenario I posed before. If my mother got together with some guy when she was 17 and they were 17, screwing in her mother's house when she's at work, and she had me, never got married and went on welfare, I would not be the guy I am today. I'm 100% sure of that. So I do attribute the majority of my mindset, my values to my mother and father, and my brothers, because my
Okay. brothers
brothers played a big important part. I was the youngest guy in the family, and they looked after me, really, They looked after me, They took care of me as far as what I needed to know, and they kind of put me to the side and kind of schooled me on some things to say, hey, this is what expected of you in a couple of years, but try to do it now. And
Yeah.
you'll be surprised the people that take notice when you 17 years old and you doing these kind of things that normally a 25-year-old guy's doing or thinking about. So nothing but praise for my mom and my parents and my family.
Well, like I said, I'm not taking nothing with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, no, I know what you mean. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
But we live in a world where I've had jobs where I've told the guy it's a $40,000 bid, and he shook my hand and gave me a cashier's check, And when he came back, the work was done. You can't you be stupid to do that with people now.
Yeah.
I stayed up in Canada for a while, and everything was on a handshake.
Yeah.
You come back here and you do something, even with relatives or somebody who's become a close friend. Now, what's the phrase? You find a fool, you bump his head.
Yeah.
They get take all the money and disappear and then laugh at you. Oh man, you know how it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I got a lot of examples throughout our conversation as we're talking. I think about them. And here is one. One of my closest friends, he said, you know what, Morrisman, he said, I got a friend that I was trying to help. She called me and said she needed some money because she had borrowed a large sum of money from her mom, and she wanted to pay her mom back. So he gave her, or loaned her, I don't know what, only gave her $1,000 to give to her mom. He said, gave it to her, and then he said about a week later, he was kind of expecting, because he know her mom, too. He was expecting to get a call from her mom to say thank you. And he mentioned the money to her, not to, try to,
Pressure.
Exactly. Good. Thank you. Pressure her, but just out of conversation and curiosity, he said mentioned about the money, and she said this to him. Oh, my mother said thank you. I'm like, wow, that was kind of like how often do you give somebody that kind of money and they kind of forget about it or forget about the acknowledgement? But that's the kind of world we live in now, that people don't really care anymore. It's like, oh well.
And people who care for you, care for you, and people who have people care for them, and it's like, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal to have somebody in your life take consideration for you, your comforts, your wants, needs, and desires.
Little things make a big impression.
Yeah.
Because as most people know, when I do the music thing and they send me comments, 99% of the time I respond. It's very rare that I don't respond, and then sometimes I have to respond kind of nasty and block people, because they're idiots and ignorant.
Yeah.
But for the most part, anybody out there that, send me a message or inquiry, I respond because I was raised to be responsible and responsive. I just want to say this and stress this. This talk show, especially this particular one, is for our younger folks, because when you get our age, we kind of a set deal.
Yeah.
Whoever we are, whatever we are, and we're not going to
be.
change.
I try to tell my sister that.
Yeah, but I try to appeal to the young folks to say, hey, be considerate, be mindful.
Yeah, be considerate.
Be consistent, because you have, again, no idea who's watching you and watching your behavior.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very observant person, and that's sometimes usually a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. With this new technology, I'm starting to see this. Less of this and more of this.
Yeah.
And it's like nothing takes the place of this.
No, because that takes the humanity. These things are taking the humanity away from people.
And
I know a lot of kids don't know how to communicate verbally.
No, because
and forget about writing.
They're getting caught up in this technology.
Yeah.
And then we find, I noticed this sometimes, you texting with somebody and then they don't respond no more. Then they give you this message the next day when you ask them about the last question or inquiry. Oh, I didn't get your text. And I'm like, the way that the cell phone systems are set up now, it's very rare that these things don't go through. It's just a way of just kind of bypassing and say, I don't want to be bothered with this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ignore this.
Ignore it,
right. Let me respond to this or respond to it by not responding. What I mean is, I'm going to respond by saying I don't want to respond. That's even good enough for me. But now you get these excuses, my cell phone battery died, or dropped in water, or, just a bunch of excuses, because I'm like, let me just say this. In business, this is one word that is unforgivable. I forgot. It's not acceptable. It's like, don't tell your boss that, because you might get fired.
Yeah.
And it's like, we do forget sometime, but it's no excuse, that you're supposed to be consistent.
How in the world can you forget something that's going to cost somebody $50,000, $60,000, $1,000, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know what to say, man. People, once it seems like people I'm around, once they get what they want, what they need, they're done with you.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I've observed some people that do this. They kind of ignore you, or not really responsive until they want something. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with coming to somebody when you want something, but guess what? You should be there when they want something.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's always about you, and I observe and watch you, and you're not responsive until you need some money or you need some help.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be bothered with people like that. But again, we just constantly stress that, be consistent. Don't let anybody have to tell you what you need to do. Kind of be on top of this.
Yeah.
Because, again, and I can't stress this more, people observe your behavior and what you do and what you don't do. And a lot of times they can judge you based on those things before you even open your mouth.
Yeah.
So I've always been consistent, because here's another short story. When I met my wife, I was raised to be respectful of other people's homes. And when it's time to go, nobody should have to tell you it's getting late.
It's getting late.
And one day she peeked in there and her daughter's room and said, "Where's Morris?" And she said, "Oh, he left about 2 hours ago." She said, "I like that, because nobody have to tell me it's getting late. I know it's late, and I need to respect these people's homes and take my tail home."
It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You
well, no, it's never that late.
I know.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I was at it about 7:30.
Okay.
8 o'clock is the latest to me. I'm getting out of there. But I know what you're saying. 2:30 is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Unless you're grown in somebody else's grown house. But anyway, those are just some examples as far as young men. Don't let anybody have to tell you to do things that is obvious that you need to do or not do. Because that sold her on me, even though I was already, was sold on me anyway, but that was kind of the icing on the cake to say, hey, I think this is the guy, this is the guy. Mm-hmm. So, I attribute again all that to my parents as far as teaching me to be considerate and consistent. And consistent is one of the big words in this conversation that, when I die, I hope that, if people talk about me after I'm gone, they say, what one thing you could say about Morrisman, And it's like he was consistent. He returned your calls. He was responsive to you. He didn't give you excuses. He didn't tell you he forgot. And that's a big compliment,
I think it is, too.
To be consistent, because that's one of my pet peeves, that when I got to track you down for stuff,
yeah, for your stuff.
I got for my stuff. It's like, where's my stuff?
Yeah.
Instead of you bring my stuff, I got to go find you and ask me where my stuff is. You know, that really takes me
I'll
off.
get back to when I was standing up in Canada. The Canadians weren't like that. They might go fight over baseball, over ball games and stuff, do a bunch of other silly crap.
Yeah.
But I'm generalizing. The people I was around, once they said something, it was a done deal.
Deal. Right. It
You
wasn't
know,
this, if they still want to do it, I haven't heard from
yeah,
them. So,
it
you
was
know,
a done
again,
deal.
you know, and we're about to sign off because I see my production assistant over there. But again, I'm going to leave you young guys with this. Be consistent, be considerate, and be respectful.
Yeah.
You know, if you can just do those three things throughout your life, you're going to have a pretty good life.
Yeah.
As opposed to you're non-responsive, you're irresponsible, you're not a team player, you know, those are really bad traits that will really kind of harm your growth. You know, so I'm gonna turn it over to Joe.
And like he said, now if you got friends or even relatives who don't have basic I'm you, you, me skills, you got to find yourself another world. There's a lot of leeches out here, man. They just take you and suck off of you and suck off and suck off of you, and time is short. If you can't have a group of people got a give and take thing, go find yourself a support group that you can grow with.
Yeah.
You know,
And
go find you a woman that you can grow with. It's a support group, except for the exterior.
Yeah, and let me leave you guys with this interesting, amusing story. When I was in my 20s, I applied for a forklift operator job. And this is like back in the 80s, and this job was paying $18 an hour back then, part-time.
Yeah.
It's like, I got to get a piece of that.
Yeah.
So I went down there, I applied, and they told me to show up at this hotel where they rented out this conference room so we can go there for orientation or writing that application to try to get hired. And they told us, Joe, be there at 9 o'clock sharp. I left my house at 7 o'clock to anticipating getting lost, but still making it on time. I got there, of course, about maybe 45 minutes earlier than the start time, and they told us also to bring a number 2 pencil and I think something else, a pad or something. And I brought 2 number 2 pencils and a pad. I kid you not, Joe. I got there, I sat there, I waited, and long story short, I got the job, but bagging up. So I got there, and at 9 o'clock, they closed and locked the door. And I kid you not, during the 2-hour presentation that the employers, potential employers gave us, exactly, people were knocking, see the door turning, and he said, you see those people out there? They're not getting in and getting jobs because we told them 9 o'clock, and we went 9 o'clock. Not 9:15, not 9:07.
Not 9:02.
You know? And even some of the people that made it and went in the place didn't have a number 2 pencil.
Right.
They made notes of those people. We never seen those people again. So again, when you think people are not observing your behavior and what you've been asked to do, they do. So you need to be very conscious and aware of that.
And they have corporal analysts.
Exactly. So on that note, I'm signing off. Until next time, take care.